Welcome to Bishkek, and welcome to our panel, Fueling Innovation on Entrepreneurship in Central Asia and CAMCA region. We're excited to be here today in this very lovely city. And I hope we're going to have a very dynamic discussion today on entrepreneurship. I'm excited to introduce our panelists today. We have online Valeria Budinich. She is the System Entrepreneurial Advisor from the Legatum Center for Development and Entrepreneurship at MIT. She will be joining us online. We have Alim Khamitov, CEO of Most Ventures and managing partner or co-founder of Most Holdings. We have Nargis Dustmatova, Chairman of FinTech Association of Uzbekistan. We have Jahn, Karsybaev, co-founder and partner of Big Sky Ventures, and Dastan, Omuraliev, founder and CEO of Tentech. Please welcome them. As we gather today to talk about exciting development of Central Asia, entrepreneurial landscape, and reflecting the significant changes and the system that evolved in the last decade, we have the experts here who've seen these changes, and I would like to ask, my first question would be to talk more about those changes in the last decade. What happened? How do you see, what kind of trends do you see emerging in the region? Alim, please, that will be addressed to you.
So, hello, everyone. At first, I would love to thank the organizing team for CAMCA for inviting me, for having me. Actually, it's my second CAMCA forum, and I'm not a CAMCA fellow, by the way, but I think I know more than 80% of people here. And last year, when it was in Almaty, I actually came as, it's not usual for me. I don't usually spend more than one day on one forum, but I spent 2 days with this community. So thanks a lot for thanks a lot for that. Just maybe a few words on what we do, and I will come back to your question. So I'm the co-founder of Most Holding. We usually call ourselves Most Ecosystem. And I'm really happy that you asked me this question, since we have been developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Kazakhstan and Central Asia for 13 years. Since 2011, we launched the first business incubator. I think not just in Kazakhstan, but in Central Asia. I won't spend all the time by describing the story, but today we support entrepreneurs and founders in 5 ways. So we have 2 venture funds. So we invest with the Most Ventures Fund 1, we invest in pre-seed and seed stage startups. And the mandate is actually we invest in founders from Central Eurasia who build global IT companies wherever they are. It doesn't mean they should be here. As of now, we have up to 30 companies in portfolio that we supported. And by the way, we have 2 companies originally from Kyrgyzstan, and we invested more than 1,500,000 in 2 Kyrgyz startups. We also have another fund on the growth stage. We have hubs, accelerators, and other things. So regarding to your question, the first thesis I have, the market is rapidly growing. For sure, I have this representation of many years, but I think something happened in 2018-19 when what I call quantity moved to quality. So what it means, the number of startups, the number of IT companies growing. As I know now, it's up to whatever, like 6,000-7,000 companies. And it's not idea stage, it's real good companies that we have, and we look at them as a fund, as investor. What I see too, the entrepreneurial culture and investor culture is also emerging. It's changing the mindset of people. So and I'm happy to see my friends also here who really invest. So I would say more investors are coming. Still, it's a huge gap in terms of what we need, and do people believe into what is happening, but still the amount that we see for the last year, actually, we end up with a number of more than 110 million USD. This is the amount, the amount that was invested in IT, in specifically VC deals. It's excluding grants and other things. So this number is good. I mean, it's not big one, maybe if you compare with the developed markets, but in 2018, it was like 15, 20 million only. Yeah. And another thing, my favorite thesis, we have so many talents who really build great competitive companies. And why it's so? We also have even exits happening here, so investors getting their money back with some margin. But what we know, we have what I call serial entrepreneurs, or what I usually call, now we have serial IT millionaires who's going to create another companies. So all of these facts, I think it's a good signals for the world, and I'm so happy that it's a large international community here who can actually hear these good stories. Yeah.
But what has changed? Like, what do you think is driving this innovation and
what
this
has changed?
burst? Yeah, what has changed in this? Why all of the sudden, in the last since 2018, you're saying what has happened in the region?
I mean, we don't have to create the bicycle. I mean, if you look at the market from ecosystem perspective, it's usually several components like what the government can do. So I'm happy that even here, we just heard the Minister of Digital Development, it means that the government is in the market, and the same with Kazakhstan, let's say. But what I usually say as a private player, 100x, 1000x should be done more.
Yeah.
Just put more money, inject the capital into the market. But this is one. So entrepreneurship becomes an option, really an option for young people to start a business. The second one, the capital. It's still under finance. I mean, the whole market in terms of IT specifically. I'm more on IT sector oriented. So I would say that the deals, the exits, the size of the companies, the rounds they raise, it's growing. So what it means, we don't usually, and not we only have companies on a, let's say, idea stage, prototype stage. We really have good companies who are growing and actually scaling to other markets. So we need to support them. And maybe lastly, I would say, I'm happy that Central Asia now has an interest from international investors. One signal for me is that I see more and more funds coming to the market from Turkey, from Singapore, from US. They would love to invest, and they see the potential. And also, that's what we are thriving for, that's what we try to change, the local investors. Now, venture or IT is not something, it's not about me. I do the traditional stuff, that's not about me. But now people are more eager to understand what is there. They really invest. For the most time, they start with a pre-IPO somewhere, but now they come and really believe in the local talents. And yeah, we see that the amount is growing. So the number is growing, the quality is growing. I think it's good.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great developments. Nargis, would you like to add anything from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think I will give the perspective from the FinTech side. And what we saw over the course of, for the past 5 years, I think the market has has become very energetic in terms of attracting the investments and in terms of, providing new innovative solutions and business models. So just to give you a little bit of a background in terms of the FinTech Association of Uzbekistan, although it's got the Uzbekistan part of it, we still work on a regional level. So we do have a lot of projects aimed at capacity building and kind of trying to provide the skill sets and the knowledge that will create a next generation, like startup or, the businesses tomorrow. So we work in Uzbekistan, we work in Kazakhstan, and we work in Tajikistan. So we're looking to obviously expand the region, but right now the capacity for the past 1.5 years have been focused on these 3 key countries. So we do work on with women a lot, especially those women who sit at home and who don't really have an access to finances, and those who need upskilling to enter the digital market. So that's kind of potential new let's say, a breed of entrepreneurs and startups that we see. Not all of them will make to the entrepreneurship. Some of them will be finding their source and a source of income in the surrounding positions. So we're trying to kind of bring the FinTech side of that. So trying to fit in the financial technologies aspect to link, as a financial inclusion kind of thing, or the unbanked population. So when it comes to the changes overall, we see a lot of new domains emerging. Obviously, before it was more around the, I'm talking about the Uzbekistan market right now. So back in 2017, people didn't really know what the FinTech was, right? When you were talking to the banks, traditional banks, or when you would talk to just the industry overall, people really didn't understand what the FinTech was, and it's just a funky name. But today we see, like a couple of years ago, we see that everybody wants to be in FinTech. So we see that the emergence of financial technology aspect is very, very important. So the key aspect that we saw, it's obviously the COVID time, and before COVID time and after COVID time, right? The COVID time has given us the rise of a lot of KYC element, digital onboarding, a lot of the aspect where you could really access to your information via phone. So we see a number of different innovations through the phone, right? Not just on the web services. After that, we see that the government and the regulator has become very open and embracing the new technology. So it was more about let's make it better, right? So that was a very interesting aspect in terms of changing the willingness to embrace new technologies. And obviously, we see the rise of e-commerce, not just in Uzbekistan, but in general in the country, in the region overall, where we saw that obviously Kazakhstan has got Kaspi, and all the other players, and we saw that market has done extremely well, and we wanted to be there as well. So over the course of 1.5 years, we've got our first unicorn today called Uzum, which is kind of made, let's say, a company made in Uzbekistan and a Crunchbase listing, which is, again, that's another motivational point for all of us to look at. Obviously, Kaspi has done well, going at IPO, and now we have Uzum now. So I think the region overall has really put themselves on the map. So a lot of investors started to see that there is Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and all the other Stan countries, as we were very hidden and unknown to the investors before. So going back to the trends, we see a lot of ecosystem emerging, and I think it's now not just about creating something new, but more about collaborating. And I think that's a very interesting part, because in the FinTech area, we see a lot of marketplaces emerging, powered by AI, powered by all these buzzwords that booming right now, and a lot of projects connected to the to the data itself. And when it comes to the data, there are a lot of different businesses that can build. So as a FinTech association, we also started to create a new pilot project together with the Sterling Foundation, by the way. I'm very pleased to have them here as well. And that's a project which is aimed at like a business accelerator with a FinTech prototype, but at the same time, not just a FinTech, any kind of project, but those projects that will be caring for the underserved population. So we can really look at the innovation that can really disrupt or can help the social market to boom. So, those are the key points that we see: the ecosystem, e-com, and the cybersecurity that has become very big this year because of geopolitics and obviously the risk management aspect and a lot of other areas. Yeah, I think that's the key ones.
Thank you so much. I asked this question to kind of set the stage and talk about the foundation, like where we are in the region right now. Thank you, great answers. Valeria, thank you so much for joining us at the last moment. You have kind of a global perspective from MIT Legatum Center. What I wanted to ask you, how do you see the role of education system? how do we prepare the next generation of entrepreneurs? Is there, I know we talked a lot about, the previous panel talked about the role of the government. What is the role of the government for the Central Asia, Caucasus republics in creating this entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Thank you, Natalia. A real pleasure to be with you. I would say that the role of education, it's fundamentally at three levels. One is to, when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship, you learn practicing it. It's not so much a question of knowledge, it's a question of how do you actually transform that knowledge into experiences that stimulate young people and also advanced entrepreneurs to be inspired, to be determined, to see where they see problems, they see opportunities. And experiential learning is at the center of what we do at MIT, at the business school. Part of that experiential learning journeys are fellowships, are competitions, are incubators, accelerators. And in a matter of 2 decades, you have close to 10 of thousands of entrepreneurship programs around the world. And while each culture adapts this to the local conditions, there are certain practices that are central to doing that. And those practices are fundamentally, like I said, experiential learning. And the second aspect is that enabling the innovation and entrepreneurship environment that supports these entrepreneurs requires to build ecosystems like the previous speakers mentioned. And for that, at MIT, we have developed the tools, the frameworks, and the collaborative spaces for that to happen. And this has been implemented in more than 50 geographies around the world. So there are established practices for building the ecosystem. And the third thing is leadership. Without ethics, without values, entrepreneurship will not deliver what we are after, which is prosperity for all. And building a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation, it goes beyond universities. It's a matter of how society sees entrepreneurs, how it values them, how it supports them. And part of this, it starts at a very young age. I mean, I have seen in countries, schools, primary schools, that promote entrepreneurship, that create those experiential learnings, journeys, and develop incentives for kids to see themselves and identify, self-identified with entrepreneurs. And that is basically the three aspects that I would highlight: experiential learning, building robust ecosystems, and creating the kind of ethical entrepreneurship and leadership that will deliver what we're after.
Thank you so much. Anyone would like to add from the regional perspective what worked so far in creating the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs? Have we introduced anything in schools yet, like any entrepreneurial classes? Any examples of success or new initiatives? Something that we have to work on.
I can quickly comment. We have a public association called ProKG, and one of the clubs we initiated several years ago was an IT club. So we cover around 36, 37 schools across the country in Kyrgyzstan. And it has been quite successful because we see a lot of demand from school children wanting to learn IT, because IT is something very broad that not a lot of people truly understand that it's a very broad matter and it has a lot of, let's say, insider parts of it. But yeah, I think civil society, not just business, has to do more in terms of implementing things like IT clubs and things of that nature.
Alim, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, sure. I can answer from two sides. Actually, not so many people know, but I have taught for more than 10 years. I have my personal teaching experience. Even my background is in IT. I'm the programmer. I think people usually say you cannot be ex-programmer, but so I have been programmed for more than 7 years. But what I actually, by being inside of the university, inside of the college, I understood that this words project-based learning, startup-based learning, it really matters, and it's really important even how the teacher delivers this. I mean, it's fully different discussions, like it's a different class, different methodology and stuff, but the whole idea, I'm so happy that when I now go to the market, I meet my students everywhere. So in Kazakhstan, as I know, entrepreneurship, it's a required course now in whatever major you have. So if you are in IT, it's usually connected to IT. Let's say, okay, let's create a startup. I know that universities, and actually I have some colleagues here, they don't have a diploma project, they have capstone project based, like this is like in US and the West, where you really have to provide the real, I wouldn't say business, but the real stuff. And based on market metrics, you also be evaluated. I mean, of course, it will be some grade and stuff, but still. But what I actually did in classes, it was in parallel, I got my even outsource company, IT outsource company. So I really brought real project to the students. And I agree with my colleagues when the business should be there, should be close to the universities and colleges. I think it's still a challenge. In Kazakhstan, I see so many challenges. Usually business don't want to go into the universities, not just because of the money, just because of sometimes we don't have time on that. But this is one thing that I would love to highlight. It's good that entrepreneurship is there, but I suppose that it should be looked how it's taught, right? This is the idea. I don't know if you're going to ask me later on what we do, but we also do the incubation acceleration program, but it's a separate thing that...
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can tell us a little bit about it.
So as a part of MOS ecosystem, for more than 13 years, we still do incubation and we still do acceleration programs. Just to make it clear, if you're not familiar what incubation means, this is like a real farm when you have chickens, but in our case, we have startups. So with the incubation, I think this is a brilliant instrument to incubate the talents and really support them in terms of building the business when they come to you with MVP, with a prototype, and when they leave you with the sales. This is the differentiation. We actually discussed it during the coffee break. This differentiates from entrepreneurs, these people who would love to do the business, but for the most time, I mean, not all people should be the entrepreneurs, but from the real entrepreneurs. And by the way, it's really important to understand incubators and accelerators, they don't teach how to do the business. It's a platform where entrepreneurs usually come. That's what I usually always try to deliver the messages when people think that I teach how to do the business. I don't teach. The whole idea is to create the environment when people come and take maximum out of it. In incubation, you help them to build a business. In acceleration, we still do this. If there's something to accelerate, you help them to accelerate this through mentorship, through education, through the access to the capital. And in our case, it worked well. I like the companies that we invested out of accelerators, and they usually outperform. So I think this is the case that we need more such kind of programs everywhere.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just to add to Alim's conversation in terms of incubation accelerator. It's all very important to the ecosystem, but from the it's like supply and demand side, right? So we also need private sector and corporate clients to finance and to breed, because corporate innovation is very, very important. And I think that has been, like in Uzbekistan, for example, it has been a very slow action and understanding of the need, and really kind of connecting with the startup ecosystem and linking the real project with the corporate clients. I think that's kind of more of a next step to really bring the supply and demand side in, in action, and connecting these two dots to make sure that there is a, like a startup that really works for the need of society, and the idea or, the innovation or the product that they generate is actually utilized on a daily market and, kind of on the commercial level. So that's very important.
Thank you so much. So now we talked a little bit about the elements of ecosystem. Now I want to turn our attention to investment opportunities. And I think all of our speakers have had worn the different hats in their lives. And I know everyone is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and ecosystem builder. My next question is to Jahn. Jahn, if you can share a little bit about your experience and what you think about the investment opportunities, and what are the shortcomings of investment opportunities? What's happening now in the region?
Very great. Thank you so much for this question, and really great honor to be here with you guys. I came here all the way from Miami, endured some food poisoning, and the fact that this conference is happening here on such a scale, it's already a huge validation for the market that there's a lot of innovation, a lot of things are happening in this region. So just kudos and huge round of applause, please, to the organizers, especially Jenny. I want to share a little bit about ourselves first, and then the reason for that, I want to expand a little bit further on some of the examples of the companies that we had invested in emerging markets such as Southeast Asia, Central Asia, that are expanding into the market of US. So Big Sky Capital is a early stage B2B enterprise SaaS venture capital firm. We have an office in South Florida where I'm based, and in Southeast Asia where my partner is representing. And also we have an office in Almaty here in Kazakhstan as well. The reason for such a global reach is because our investment thesis is investing in emerging markets and in diverse, underrepresented immigrant founder teams, also female-led teams as well. We invest extremely early, from a drawing on a napkin all the way to revenue-generating companies. We see a huge opportunity in finding those exceptional founders in emerging markets of what I've mentioned, Southeast Asia and Central Asia, who have the propensity and the caliber to be able to expand into much bigger markets such as US. And the reason we have an office there is that we're then able to actually take those teams and come and expand further. We see tremendous opportunity in Central Asia in particular. Just to give you guys an example, 7 years ago, there were only 3 active funds here that were investing actively in the region. In the past 3 to 4 years, now there's close to 10 active venture capital firms that are investing, writing checks. At the same time, there's also a lot of rounds that are being closed for the early stage startups here in the region, where we see a validation through large venture capital firms from the Silicon Valley participating in those rounds as well. We see that on a daily basis. Out of the 20 companies we invested in, quite a few of those already have successfully closed the rounds anywhere from C to the Series A. And we see that validation through, very large funds participating in those rounds. And it's a huge testament to the founding teams that are able to find and identify those unique opportunities and actually expand on the global scale. As far as the industries, FinTech, health tech, cybersecurity, what Alim had already mentioned, and at the same time, the founders that are building those technologies, those software solutions in the region, there's a very strong educational system to be able to build essentially that caliber of talent that's capable of building the technology solutions that's able to expand that on a global scale. So those are just some of the very basic trends that we observe, that we see on a global scale, and we're just very bullish on this particular region, bullish to the extent that I'm moving my family back to Kazakhstan after 25 years in US, because we see so much opportunity to identify those companies, invest early stage, and help them expand on the global scale.
What are the challenges entrepreneurs face now from the region?
The biggest challenge is not so much the capability or so much the availability of capital, because all of that is there. It's all in the mindset of the founders. And we work on that very extensively with organizations that's represented here to essentially instill in those founders that they have the capability, they have the ability to build a company that's global, that could be the next unicorn. So it's all in the mindset. And that's the biggest challenge that we see in the founders in our local markets of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and all other regions here.
Not thinking big enough?
Not thinking big enough, not thinking that they have the capability to do that, because from technology standpoint and them being able to build that technology, it's there. But the mentality is just something that we still, as an ecosystem in general, we really need to do collective effort much better.
Very good. Thank you so much. Dastan, would you like to add anything?
I'd like to probably address the different perspective. What Jahn says, I totally agree. Probably the biggest limitation that we have is in our mind, right? And that goes far with all the entrepreneurs in the region. But another thing that I observe is that a lot of founders from this region would like to create products that are global products without even testing them out in the local market or the local region. And I mean, there is demand in the local region as well. I mean, if you take Central Asia, that's about almost 80 million people. I understand that the market is not as, let's say, lucrative as some of the larger markets, but I think that both sides have to be developed. You have to help out entrepreneurs that are trying to go and develop their product on a global scale, but at the same time, you have to support those entrepreneurs that are doing products for the local markets. Because we use a lot of, if we look at software, we use a lot of software products that were developed, for example, in Russia, or in Ukraine, or in Belarus, that were not developed locally in Central Asia. And those companies are doing very well. I mean, just take one product, let's say 1S, yeah, 1C, I don't know, probably majority of the people here know that product. All of the accounting books are conducted with that program. They're a total monopoly. I haven't heard of, well, I mean, there might be several large corporate companies that use SAP or Oracle, but the vast majority, 99%, use that program for their accounting books. I mean, and I have the question of how come no companies from our region have developed something local, tailored to our market, that could be used in the market, and it's feasible. For example, our company, Tentech, which I founded just 3 months ago, we partnered, and this is an example of probably what CAMCA is about, I think. We partnered with a company from Uzbekistan, Green White Solutions, that has been developing an ERP system since 2011. And they also have the ambition to go global, but they understand that they first need to, they've tested their product in Uzbekistan, they have a 60% market share for their sector. Now they want to expand to the neighboring countries, after which they have the plan to go further, let's say to countries in the Middle East, Turkey, maybe Eastern Europe. And I think those companies are more mature, and they understand the fact that even when going into a local market that's neighboring, they have to adapt the product. But it's much easier for them to do that than rather, let's say, they go out and start trying to promote and market their product in Europe or the United States. I'm not saying it's a one fit for all, but I'm just saying that I think it's important to develop both sides of the stories. And another example is, for example, I partnered with the representatives here, a company called Eureka, which is a green tech company based in Singapore, but the majority of the team is actually in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. And I think a lot of the times when we hear companies, for example, when we hear about startups, we want to invest into US startups, right? I mean, investors family offices, high net worth individuals from our region, they want to put their money into work somewhere in Europe or the US. And rarely do they consider investing into regional companies. But I think the trend is changing, and we need to, let's say, help promote the fact that there are lots of opportunities in the region where there could be not just investment opportunities, but opportunities to scale products regionally, first of all. And that's one of the things, as a CAMCA fellow, I learned during our fellowship is I would also look to the global market in terms of doing business, or look specifically into the local market of the Kyrgyz Republic. Now, all the time when I see any business opportunities, I look at the regional market of CAMCA. So.
Excellent. Actually, yeah, I just want to thank you so much for bringing this up. And this is actually my next question. I want to talk a little bit more about, and thank you for actually doing this and cooperating and partnering up with the different regional companies. I want to talk a little bit about regional cooperation. We know from investors, they look at different markets. They want large markets. They want to have access to a large population. For companies, I think it's important for Kyrgyz entrepreneurs. Probably Kyrgyz market is quite small. They want to look. They want to see what's at least in the neighborhood, right? How do you assess this regional cooperation? What's happening now? Is it companies just looking to expand globally, go to US right away, or you see this, I don't know, Kazakh company expanding to Kyrgyzstan or Uzbekistan first and vice versa? Alim, would you like to, or anyone?
No, I can start, yeah. So I would say there is a fact now that this maybe I'm biased since I'm here, but now people, yes, talk about like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, other countries, but in general, now we position ourselves as Central Asia, and sometimes even we say not Central Asia, but Central Eurasia, and I think it's organic story when we add South Caucasus to the region. It's not just to make it more population, it's just organically in our case, when our companies started to scale to Azerbaijan, to Armenia, to Georgia, and vice versa. Their companies started to come to us, I mean, to Kazakh market, to Central Asian market. In terms of cooperation, by default, in our case, most covers Central Eurasia. So when people ask, are you based in Almaty? Yes, we're based in Almaty, but we cover the whole region. There are several reasons for that. I mean, there's a term that I created for myself, even when we invest in a startup, and it actually connected what we just said, you can really become an elephant in the region. It's not only about scaling. Of course, we as a VC investors, we look for bigger stories. Big multipliers, big exits is somewhere in the bigger markets. But let's just don't forget, maybe in emerging markets, it's fully fine when you have a company from, let's say, Kyrgyzstan, and he will scale up to the region, and let's say it will be acquired by someone, by corporate, which is fully fine. And specifically, the thing that I would love to raise is connected to what should be done more here. The startup is not like something artificial that you cannot support and talk to. The first support they need to get is local one. And that's what I'm actually messaging to even Kyrgyz market. I'm happy that it will be launched soon. Even let's create the business angels club. Let's create the VC club. Let's create entrepreneurial club and a lot of things where our local founders should and must they get the first local support here. Since imagine like someone, like I'm getting a lot of messages from LinkedIn from, let's say, Israel founders, Indian founders, Singapore. I usually question them. What is wrong with you if you come to my, to take my Kazakh money, let's say, right? Or Central Asia, whatever the money. It's something wrong with that, right? So that's what I'm saying. The whole idea is to make it regional and provide so much comfortable environment so people don't leave. I think there's another question that we should also raise, and Kazakhstan has the same. It's still, maybe it's slower now, but brain drain is still there, right? So people leave, and if you look at the profile of these people, usually it's one of high intellectual type of people, with international education, all these things. That's why and even these questions arise small when you look regionally. When you look, I recently went to Azerbaijan. I'm so happy to see some guests from there, but so many ideas was about to create something global, which is good, but also how to maybe move somewhere, since I have a ambitious idea, I have great idea, but I cannot find the money, just simple capital for testing my first hypothesis, let's say, right? But coming back to your question, I just wanted to raise this. In terms of cooperation, we actually, what we do, I'm so happy that in our accelerator, we always have one Uzbek, one Tajik, one Kyrgyz, one in other countries. In every program we have one, and it becomes kind of a trend. And I'm so happy that before it was really hard to do, but people now come. And in vice versa, we also go to other regions by sharing the knowledge, which is discussed on the break that, let's say, we are not only about the founders, but let's also educate angels, business angels, VC investors.
That's also needed, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think we already did up to 5 or 6 programs in Uzbekistan, and more than 30, 35 programs only for angels in Kazakhstan, and many more acceleration type of programs. And it's all regional. So the whole idea is that my vision, yes, let's maybe bring international expertise, but what is important is to create the environment when we nurture the local expertise. That's what I usually say. Okay, let's bring someone from, I don't know, whatever, big country who can bring something, but after he finishes, he usually leaves. Exactly. So what is there? So my point is, let's proceed with this cooperation. Let's share the knowledge and expertise. I'm not against international expertise. I mean, it's fully fine. I'm so happy that people come. But on the other hand, let's try to make the instruments so we can, and based on our most ecosystem experience, that's what we try to do. We really come to other markets, even in Almaty, in Kazakhstan, in the region, and teach, or it's not actually teaching, it's sharing the experience of, okay, please create your own incubator. This is your business. My goal, my simple goal is this incubator, this accelerator, or this entrepreneurship center will create the pipeline for me as an investor. Since my goal is to find the talents, maybe invest, help him, and finally it will be something big story from the region.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there is enough expertise here, and we have to continue nurturing.
I saw that I'm not so direct then, but this is I think this is the stage I would love to deliver the pains.
Yes, sure.
I'll probably give you the glimpse from the FinTech Association and how many people that we meet constantly on a day-to-day basis and a weekly basis as well. Obviously, due to the reforms, we have become very open to collaboration, and we're trying to really find best partners, especially when it comes to the FinTech, where, obviously Uzbekistan is not the country where the FinTech was born, or, the Central Asia overall. So we see a very great appetite, and obviously the knowledge sharing, which is very important. And now, let's say a couple of years ago, it would have been, maybe not really impossible, but there was very little interest to travel to Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan or like Tajikistan, right, to share the knowledge and to find the common grounds for potential projects. And today, we as a FinTech Association would travel a lot to have some mutual, kind of projects, as well as we see a very, very big appetite for other companies to come and invest, as well as launch companies and branches in Uzbekistan. So we see that level of enthusiasm and a partnership happening through the IT parks, through the special jurisdictions, and this is where the government actually created the support for as a tax exemptions. So which is great. So we have the let's say the support from the government element, from the reforms, from the market itself, willingness to come and open new markets. And there was another interesting point, which is, that probably will be quite big in terms of really kind of have big projects around, among our countries is because last year when we were in the CAMCA during the Ramsel Foundation program, we were brainstorming for our final presentation and seeing how we can really wipe the borders and create some kind of a seamless digital infrastructure among our countries. So at that time, we were feeling, some kind of crazy ideas were popping up at the brainstorm session, and they were all sound really crazy. But today, we see that the new project between Uzbekistan and Kyrgyz Republic on where two major national payments companies sign an agreement to have acquiring, issuing, as well as the risk management monitoring has become not a point of impossibility, but actually something that is now working. And if that kind of proves to be successful, then it can really kind of go even bigger and connecting all the other countries. So where we can have a, kind of a cross-border transaction with no element of, a risk and everything. So I think these kind of a big, impactful projects, we see this emerging already, and the governments are cooperating, market is cooperating, and I think we will see more of that in the next 3, 4, 5 years' time. And obviously, the entrepreneurship will flourish as well.
This is very exciting to hear. And Jahn, thank you so much. Jahn, would you like to? Yeah.
Great points for both of you guys. And I just want to quickly add, from a perspective of a VC or any other investors out there, to adopt a very similar method, I guess a mindset of an entrepreneur as well, and to attract not only the regional money, but also try to work with investors on a global scale. Because at the end of the day, there is still a lot of interest from the investors on the global scene, especially what we're seeing working with institutional level investors, family offices and endowments. And when we start talking to them about our investment thesis, investing into emerging markets of Central Asia, they perk up. Because at the end of the day, it's a unique opportunity for them, and it's not every day that investors are able to offer that opportunity to them. So it's just a little bit of a kind of a challenge that I want to throw out there to all regional investors to think on a global scale as well, because it also puts us as a region on the map when it comes to the unique opportunities for us to discover at the very, very early stages before they become too big. At the same time, the whole concept of value-add investor, it's, VCs are really, really good at saying we're value-add, we put it all over our websites, but at the end of the day, when it comes to actual, putting your words where that belongs, it's really important to develop that network and those connections so that you can actually help those startups and companies genuinely make those warm introductions and make those introductions to the decision makers on the global scale, especially if the companies that are trying to penetrate very niche markets and industries. And for that particular reason, we developed several programs at our fund, and one of those is working with board advisors and board directors and educating them what it takes to serve on the board of a VC-backed company. So I see a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, very successful individuals here in this room and this conference. So I encourage you guys to approach us, to talk to us about these different opportunities that we present to you as a board directors and how that actually expertise can help our portfolio companies and the companies that we invest in on, all over the region.
Thank you, Jahn. I would like to turn now to Valeria for a question, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So prepare your questions, please. Valeria, I would like, you have you're basically based in US, and you have exposure to different regions. You see entrepreneurs from different regions. Can you talk a little bit about lessons learned? What can we, as sitting here in Central Asia and Caucasus region, CAMCA region, learn from other maybe already successful regions that have been accessing the global markets? Are there any strategies that have proven successful?
Yeah, definitely, and it starts with recognizing that those entrepreneurs that are targeting regional or global markets, they have special needs, and they need to develop and practice the ability to build partnerships with an increased level of complexity. And that's why we have developed fellowships for experienced entrepreneurs from, for example, Africa and the Middle East to travel to different ecosystems in South Africa, in Cairo, in Dubai, in the United States, and we will increasingly add other countries in the world to meet their peers and make the connections that will allow them to dive deeper into the particular needs of the new markets that they want to expand to, and also build the partnerships with investors that will provide smart money, that will allow them to take an innovation-driven enterprise and rapidly adapt it to the local needs and provide the financing that is needed. This can be done at a slow pace or at fast pace, and that we have learned over the years when it comes to, for example, in the last 15 years, our center, which is one of the several centers on entrepreneurship that MIT has, it has supported 350 MIT students to build global companies in more than 40 countries. That represent revenues today in the order of $1 billion. And as we learned from them and the challenges that they face, that led us to create the Foundry Fellowship. And now with the Foundry Fellowship, we are finding that it's necessary also to focus on systemic problems that they will encounter in these new markets. And for that, usually what you have to do is to not only create generic incubators and accelerators, but focus on the critical problems that these new countries have. And it may be renewable energy, it may be the need to build platforms that have the ability to rapidly expand. And the last thing that I will mention is that regulatory frameworks are at the crux of the problem in many of the new places. And that requires to develop quickly the market intelligence and the intelligence on the legal frameworks so that entrepreneurs can rapidly navigate the new environments. And the key is also, in our experience, is to move from a vision of entrepreneurship that is focused on individuals to a vision of entrepreneurship that it's about collaboration among entrepreneurs. And that's the main lessons that I would highlight.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about regulatory framework and the role of the government, but maybe we'll hold on to this question and we'll open up. And please, if you have any questions, please introduce yourself.
Yes,
yeah.
Sure. I'm a fellow from Azerbaijan. Thank you very much for highlighting the market across the CAMCA. So, in your opinion, and I know you have experience in the United States, in the more advanced, perhaps, markets for the startup investment, and comparing to CAMCA region, what do you think our startups lacking in order to get to that level? Second question is, we also feel like it's a challenge for us to educate the investors because it's non-traditional investment because they can lose completely everything. When they go to the seed level of a startup, they can end up with only 1 out of 100, perhaps, giving them any return. So what would be your advice for the startups to educate and make sure that this industry still becomes attractive for investors? Thank you.
Is this a question to a specific panel or to everyone? Anyone who wants to take?
I can quickly,
Jahn? Okay.
Yeah, I can quickly comment on that. In addition to what we mentioned earlier, as far as the mindset of an entrepreneur thinking global, that's a given. But also at the same time, really focusing on the networking aspect of expanding your network as an entrepreneur on an ongoing basis. is just something of utmost importance, and we also see a lot of early stage entrepreneurs neglecting that aspect, especially when it comes to expanding on the global scene. Simple advice that we usually give to early stage entrepreneurs as well is forming an advisory board at the very early stages, because it really doesn't cost a lot, it doesn't cost too much, but at the same time it really allows you to build that credibility and get access to decision makers, get access to certain expertise in different markets. It doesn't need to be anyone that's important, very difficult to get access to, but it's a simple exercise to be able to really differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. And then just also limitation on the aspect of really thinking global. I think what Dastan was really talking about, but at the same time neglecting the aspect of validating your market on the local niche. And try to think almost too global too fast without having that PMF, without having that validation on the local scene. So it's really a balancing act. There's no clear formula for that, but it's really to be able to find that medium, to be able to find that as far as operating locally, and then to find the opportunity to expand on much bigger markets.
Thank you. Yes, sure.
Yeah, sure. I will regret if I won't add. Honestly, I can talk forever. So just want to add, yeah, fully agree with Jahn, but just a small thesis, yes, ambitions. Like recently it was an article from one of the top US funds. It's Andreessen Horowitz. And I fully agree with the statement that if you do the startup, by default, you are global. Yes, you can build your first traction, the first numbers, check of product market fit, business model locally, but if you have the product, and our startups in the region, they have this competitive product, you have to be global and just buy the ticket and just go and try it. This is one. The second one, I would suppose, it's about the speed. That's what I usually have a joke on Kazakh startups. Let's say we have a lot of oil and gas. Some people have. But it seems like even the startups, founders, they have this, whatever, the oil type of thing, that they know speed. I like the so slow. But this is the reality that today you should be so quick and fast. That's why I usually ask the startup founders, how many ideas, hypotheses you checked this week? If it's on one or two, it's like, you do nothing. So this is the thing about all the founders in the region, okay, the speed. And lastly, it's a good thing, we really know that the cost of production, the cost of creating something today is so low. So, and based on our portfolio of startups, I see that we can really build good things from here. But again, it's connected to the first 2 points. You try it here, you just go global. In terms of angel stuff, it's a good question. Just want to share our experience. I know that in Azerbaijan, there are 1 or 2 clubs of angels. Frankly speaking, in Kazakhstan, we tried many times to create the club, but people were not ready. The mindset was not ready. But what worked out, actually, in our case? Actually, yes, the market has grown, but when you create the platform, when the club is created, it's usually the main thing that we do, we educate people, and we usually say one thing, it's a learn by doing. You can, whatever, brainstorm about angel investment or whatever the investment, if you don't invest your own cash from your pocket, nothing happens, right? And the second thing, what is interesting, in our case, when we brought the deals where we were the lead investor, or our partners, actually, Adil is one of the co-founders of UMAY Angels Club. When we brought the deals, people followed. So I think in business, you work with whom you trust, and also in investment, it's important to work with whom you trust, and specifically someone expertise, let's say. So, of course, in business angels type of thing, it's important education, systematic education, community, and the real deals. Of course, a lot of, many fuck-ups might happen, right? I mean, this is the business. I am really surprised when people say the startup is the most risky thing. I mean, any business is a risky thing. You open the restaurant, the same risk, even today, specifically today. So, I mean, with the business angel stuff, and actually, we hope that we'll do something with, let's say, Azerbaijan, in terms of sharing the knowledge how we did it. So we hope that it will be each club in each country so we can co-share and co-invest.
Thank you for the question. We're almost out of time, and I would like to ask one last question, and everyone can answer. First, what does the future hold for regional innovation entrepreneurship, if you can say it in a couple of words, and what sectors are likely to see the most growth?
What was the first one?
What does the future hold?
Crystal ball.
Crystal ball, you're the fortune teller.
Well, I can probably say in my area, I think the AI is going to take over a lot of different sectors, and a lot of new innovations will be coming. But what's important is probably to balance off the innovation and the interest of the people. I really don't want to see the world where the technology will totally replace people and the capacity of intelligence and and ownership. Let's put it that way. So I really hope that there will be certain balance on the compliance side and regulation, as well as the new technology that will be emerging.
Jahn, thank you.
So according to my crystal ball, female-led teams, diverse teams, the future looks really bright for those types of startups. We're very, very bullish on female entrepreneurs, women-led teams. We see a lot of great examples of companies as such building tremendous global scale companies. So I definitely want to highlight that. I definitely want to encourage that, and I definitely want to see a lot more companies that are being led by females, by the diverse entrepreneurs, more and more in this regional market.
Excellent, thank you. Dastan?
I'd probably answer the question regarding what the outlook looks like. One thing that unites CAMCA is historically the Silk Road. And we have Aset here, the founder of the Silk Road Innovation Hub, who's doing massive things in the valley in terms of bringing entrepreneurs from the region, same as colleagues here. And in general, I think there's a bright future. If you look historically, Nazira mentioned earlier that, when you think about FinTech, you don't think about Uzbekistan. But I would actually disagree, because historically, for example, Samarkand was the financial capital at one point in the 14th century. That was pretty much Wall Street back in the day. And if you look in terms of entrepreneurship in general, I think our region is one of the most entrepreneurial. I think just being part of the Soviet Union for such a long time and being outside of the capital world, we lost some of that, let's say, some of that traction. But it's been only 30 years. I think we're gaining the traction really quickly. And I see a very bright future with colleagues, as I mentioned previously, and people like I said. I think there's a great future for not just technological companies, but in general entrepreneurship.
Excellent, thank you. And Alim, of course.
Let me send a message to entrepreneurs and the message to investors. To entrepreneurs, we need success cases, and it's all stake on, there's a pipeline of people, pipeline of companies. So more we have ambitious people who do the real stuff and who don't afraid to do this, much better. And we as investors, just a few of us, but we're going to support them. For investors or has access to capital or whatever, invest in funds, become an angel, support the supporters. And I think we are already in a regional VC map, but we need to really make it possible as soon as possible to put Central Asia on the technology VC map, so people somehow know us, not about the stories of whatever we have in our land or something. I truly believe that we can build the story from garage. That's what I call the garage or co-working space, and we have everything here. So if you see yourself, you can support it, please do.
Excellent. And Valeria, would you like to add anything?
Yes, that the importance of entrepreneurship will only increase going forward. And that requires governments in many countries to do a lot of catching up in terms of how to support and enable ecosystems, support entrepreneurs and enabling ecosystems that particularly drive innovation as a key driver for the kind of development and resilience that the world needs. And needless to say, regional and global integration is not an option. It's like the way forward.
Exactly, yes.
And how to do it is the key.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for our excellent panelists. I think everybody enjoyed the discussion. So the future is bright. I think regional cooperation has started already, and we see a lot of dynamic market growth. Entrepreneurs got a good advice. I don't know if there are entrepreneurs among us, but I think big was number one advice. Validate your product in the regional market first, and network. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.